It costs $3. It was made by one person, and it is the most addictive game I've played in a long time. This is the story of an indie game that was made by a software developer who worked in the gambling industry. It's got flashing lights. It's got RNG rolling. It has no business being as good as it is, yet I find myself coming back every single night for just one more hit. This is Vampire Survivors, and why it's so addictive. Vampire Survivors is an action roguelike game created by Luca Galante. It was released to Steam in early access on December 17th, 2021. The game looks like it belongs on an NES or an arcade machine, or honestly, in a museum.
You belong in a museum.
But Vampire Survivors' 8-bit, Castlevania-inspired art and music plays to a certain sense of nostalgia in me, and many others. So here's how the game works. You, the player, control a character of your choice who automatically attacks with whichever weapon they start with. The goal is to fight and survive against wave after wave of monsters, picking up new weapons and power-ups, and becoming stronger as you level up. There are synergies between various items, different strategies for different characters and stages, but once you survive for 30 minutes, congrats, you win the game. It seems like such a simple premise, yet it's absolutely addicting. And this addictiveness didn't happen by accident. You see, Ponkel has a background as a software developer in the gambling industry, and he wanted to build a game using the tips and tricks he learned along the way. In an interview, Ponkel explained how the game takes inspiration from slot machines, saying, quote, "Slot machines are very simple. All the player has to do is press one button, and the game designers have to find a way to push the player to press that button. The player is actually spending money every time they press it, and because of that, there's huge attention to detail on the sounds, the animations, and the sequences, because you have so few elements to work with. Basically, the designers try to maximize the importance and impact those elements have on the player. I just absorbed that knowledge basically just by being in the industry, and so when making a game, I have automatically applied it to what I've been doing." When you play Vampire Survivors itself, it's easy to see what Ponkel means. The various weapons all have bright colors and look cooler and cooler as they get upgraded. As you mow through waves of enemies, the satisfaction elicited from turning them into dust is hard to describe. And when you enter the later stages of the game, the screen just fills with a kaleidoscope of colors and stimuli.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that my oven is from like 2018, so it probably has modern safety features.
On top of this, there are drops that appear every time you level up, giving you a random assortment of items to choose from. Most of the time, you get one item, or maybe 3. But every so often, you get a lucky chest that gives you 5 items. And the dopamine rush from getting one of these bad boys can seriously be a bit too much to handle. Every bit of the game just feels satisfying, and it keeps you coming back. So how did this game go from basically a gambling simulator to one of the most popular games on Twitch? Well, unsurprisingly, it started off small. After all, it's an indie game developed by literally one person. The game was inspired by a mobile game called Magic Survival, and was originally released on itch.io. However, gaining virtually no attention on itch, Ponkel decided to release the game on Steam. With no illusions of grandeur, his goal was simple: to recoup the $1,500 he had spent on assets for the game. And while Vampire Survivor didn't get much attention initially, content creators like Northern Lion decided to try it out on a whim, and were blown away by how fun the game actually was. As a result, the player base began to skyrocket, going from 10,000 average players in January 2022 to 39,000 average players in February. Pretty soon, the game was among the most played on Steam, sitting around top 30. Although it's not free to play, the $3 price tag is cheaper than a cup of bubble tea, so players really didn't have much to lose even if they didn't like it. But thankfully, most people did like it. By February, the game had become so popular that Ponkel quit the job he had just started a week prior in order to focus on the development of Vampire Survivors full-time. In an interview, he said, quote, "I just felt like I didn't have a choice really. I just thought that I would regret not trying to spend as much time as I could on this. This is clearly a success. I spent almost nothing on the original game. I really wasn't expecting this kind of attention. I just wanted a little something I could play and relax with over the weekend." Well, it seems like the decision to go all in on the game has paid off, and a community is quickly growing around Vampire Survivor. Apart from the game's official Discord and a fairly active subreddit where players share everything from their insane builds to discoveries of new secret characters, a more competitive community has also formed, with players trying to achieve a number of different feats such as having the most kills, most gold, or highest level on a stage. Oh, and of course, trying to survive for the longest amount of time. Those scores are all tracked on a community leaderboard and have strict guidelines in place to ensure everything runs smoothly. As for the game itself, it continues to receive new content with every update, and new mechanics are continuously being added to the game to keep it fresh and fun. To help out with the growth of the game, Ponkel has even brought on some help from freelancers to port Vampire Survivor to an industry-standard game engine. The goal is also to fix some of the more notable problems with the game, such as how laggy it can get in later stages of a playthrough. Even as the game continues to pump out patches filled with amazing content, Ponkel is nowhere near done with his vision, and he ensures fans that there are lots more mechanics and content coming down the pipeline. Vampire Survivors is a great example of how simple games can be. Titles don't need to have photorealistic graphics, or open world maps with 6,000 side quests, or a Snoop Dogg announcer pack.
You motherfuckers want good shit, cuz I appreciate the way y'all handled that business.
VS is proof that small indie game developers still have a place in the gaming industry, especially when they're built by a guy with a background in making slot machines. And while it might not be in contention for winning Game of the Year, Vampire Survivors does prove that at the end of the day, sometimes humans just like mindlessly killing things and looking at flashing lights. This video is made possible thanks to our wonderful patrons. Massive thank you to everyone on this list, and shout out to Jason B, Brendan, QB, Foxy Moth, Pachana, Sierra, Shampoo, Spartacus, and Yashichi for being platinum supporters, as well as an extra special shout out to Steven and Marco for being diamond supporters. We hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you want to talk to us, check out our Discord. If you want to support our channel and get info on unreleased videos, check out our Patreon. If you want to help us out in a different way, leaving a like, subscribing, and hitting the bell to stay up to date is also appreciated. My name is Jonah. Thanks for watching.